we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey there, spiritual dope. I am on today with Tom Paladino. Tom is a scalar energy researcher based in Florida. Scalar energy is the fundamental life force found everywhere in the world, space, and universe. It originates from the sun and stars, chi, prana, om, mana, life force. Pyramid energy or 0-point energy are synonymous terms for scalar energy. Tom has theorized that all energy in the universe initiates a scalar energy, and that the sun of our solar system and the stars in the universe are the points of origin, the storehouses for scalar energy. He further theorizes that scalar energy is instructive energy, as the entire universe is instructed by this divine essence. Subsequently, all spiritual, cognitive, emotional, and physical action in the universe is initiated and maintained by scalar energy instructions. Scalar energy provides order in the universe. Man, it's awesome. I never heard about it until we connected. So thanks for Tom for introducing scalar energy in this form to me.
Thank you, Brandon. Thanks for the opportunity to speak on your podcast.
100%. So I always like to open these up with the idea that, we as human beings are vessels for this divine energy, right? And that's kind of what's coming through us is meant for these explicit moments. You and I, we're going to get something from this. And the person who's listening to this podcast, there's a specific message that they're going to get that could only come through Tom Paladino. What is that message today?
Everybody possesses scalar energy. I have instruments, but even more importantly, your mind and your heart are scalar energy vessels. And as we get into this discussion, you'll see how important it is to think highly of yourself and highly of others, and to have a good heart, because your mind and your heart transmit scalar energy. It's so important.
And it's so great. I love the fact that, you're scientifically based, right? You've got the instruments and you've got the tools and you've got these use cases and factual applications versus me, who just generally sits in here in my room and just tells everybody that they can, do what they want and feel how they feel, and it's going to impact them, right? Yeah. So you've got tests. You've got things that have actually shown up in the world, and that's what I think is great, right? This is kind of the pinnacle of science meets divine nature / energy, and oh yeah, by the way, it works.
Yes, I like
right?
that.
So how did you find yourself in this space?
I was always intrigued by what some might call metaphysics, the blending, the merging of science and religion. Science and religion, as far as I'm concerned, is an equivalence. It's the same. It's just a different way of looking at reality. So as a youngster, I started to study Nikola Tesla, the great scientist, and he was a mystic, but he also was a scientist. And he really could blend those two worlds. And that's why he's so prolific. That's why his work was so monumental, because he didn't discount any approach. He accepted reality as it is. He had no preconceived notions to discount something. He was an open vessel, if you will. And I want to be an open vessel. I want God to help me and to show me the way. And as long as you don't put any impediment, he will do so. And you'll see how you can become a prolific inventor or a theorist, if you will.
So you brought up the idea of impediment, and I think that I've heard you say this a little bit. I'm listening to one of your other podcasts. What would some impediments be?
Everybody has an impediment, and the world has created those impediments, and sometimes, sadly, we've bought into it. And you can't limit yourself. Don't let the world limit you. Don't limit yourself. People have unlimited potential. But some people say we live in a box, and in many ways we do. Don't define your life by the way others want to place you in that box. You really have to live outside of that box, and you have to follow the truth. I've always prided myself in following the truth, if you will. And I realize I'm iconoclastic. I realize I'm cutting edge. But that's what it has to be. You can't necessarily run with the pack all the time. The pack is not necessarily correct.
Yeah, no, it's funny, right? Like I've never been a big fan of the pack. I'm not sure whether or not that served me or not to date, but it sounds like again, it has served you and allowing you to follow a path less traveled and finding some pretty exciting spaces and places. So you tap into Nicola and you realize that he's open, nothing is left out. And then, what are some of the next steps, right? Like walk me through, like even bringing this up to your family and saying, hey, you know what? I found this thing called scalar energy and I'm all in. What's your family saying to you? Where are you, what's happening at that time and place?
Well, God bless my parents. They're no longer with us, but they always looked at it with a quizzical eye, if you will. They were really not too keen on this because they just didn't understand it. And I have a very supporting wife. She's fully in, and thank God for that. But if you will, what am I describing? I'm describing a new technology. It's technology where we can harness the sun's energy or the star's energy. And many people think that is just a little bit too esoteric, that how could you possibly do that? Well, Nikola Tesla did that, and he was very successful. And in many ways, I'm walking in his footsteps. So it is a new and emerging science. It's a new way of looking at reality. And I consider myself a trendsetter. There's not many people on the planet that are doing what I'm doing. So for now, I stand alone. But I know that this will pay big dividends in the future. And then eventually the world will see the merit of this research. So I'm at the vanguard. I'm happy to be at the vanguard. I can't say that there's many people who are following in my footsteps or the footsteps of Nikola Tesla because it's so laborious and it's so difficult and it's hard to get people to even convince people that this type of energy exists.
So how have you been able to confirm that you're continuing Tesla's work, right?
Right. Well, it came to my observation that Tesla later and his wife was not working with electricity. And he himself said he was working with non-Hertzian energy, meaning it's not electricity. It has no frequency. And that's what I'm working with. This energy, scalar energy, does not have a frequency. It's non-Hertzian. So in that sense, I'm following in the footsteps of Tesla. Tesla had scalar energy instruments. I have scalar energy instruments. And what's my point? Well, if you can go back to whoever the series of events that brought upon the computer, that was quite unique. There are many people who've lent their hand to that, but nonetheless, it was at one time it was a new science, a new and emerging science, and that's where we're at right now with scalar energy. There's very few researchers. It's a new and emerging science. I know I'm on the right track. I know that I have bona fide scalar energy instruments. And what I really want to inculcate is this. It's not electricity. I'm working in a different dimension. And this is what is so hard for people to understand. It's not electricity.
Tom, so non-Hertzian, and I'm just trying to right, I'm thinking of radio waves and frequency. Yeah. If it's non-Hertzian, does that mean that there is no up or down amplitude or anything like that? And that right. it's available kind of at all times?
It's the matrix. It permeates the universe. It's the blanket that permeates the universe.
So we're already kind of immersed in it. Would we look at it more like almost like holographic technology?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
The universe is holographic. So in a hologram, there really is not point A and point B. Everything is one point.
Right.
And there's terms that are used such as quantum entanglement, meaning what? That everything is connected, pre-connected. So if you will, let me use this analogy. If you're looking at the East Coast of the United States and the West Coast, those are two different regions. New York City is not LA. In the electromagnetic spectrum, those are two cities. In the scalar energy spectrum, New York and Los Angeles are connected. They are pre-connected, meaning what? It's a holographic. representation of the United States. It's no longer that can be plotted out on a grid system. No, everything is one point. It's quite profound.
No, I love that. Right. So there's no time and space in that.
Right.
And then my interpretation, my understanding is that in a hologram, all information is contained in any single point of information.
Yes.
Okay.
Brilliant.
Okay.
That's brilliant.
So scalar energy is all abound. There is no is it right to say that there is no specific like variance in it, right? Like it's one size energy that fits all type of thing.
Yes, that's a nice way of describing it. It really is the mind of God, or what some people call consciousness. You've heard that term consciousness. What does that refer to? It refers to an information field, a universal holographic information field. That's what I'm working with. Now you could see why, if I had my druthers, the entire world would be on Scalar, because it's an infinite source of energy. It's kind of obvious.
Here's what I liked about too. I heard your, like I said, I listened to a couple of your podcasts, and one of the things that I really enjoy is like, I'm working to, maybe branch out and, connect with a few thousand people, right? And what is your vision for your practice? If you could share that with the audience.
I want the world to convert to scalar energy. It's a much superior technology than that of electricity. And once we have this new technology in place, it will really forward the human race. This is really going to help to advance mankind. So if you look at our trajectory, look how mankind has progressed over the centuries. And technology is one of the tools that really have made our lives enjoyable, affordable, comfortable. I'm saying that scalar energy is the next quantum leap, the pun intended. Scalar energy is going to be the game changer for us.
So your goal, your mission is to impact slightly more than 1,000 or a couple thousand.
Yep.
Your goal is to impact the entire planet.
Yes, that's my goal.
Which I love. I love that. Right.
Yeah.
And the fun thing is there's no reason why that's not possible. Right. If we look at the grand scheme of things, you're leveraging universal cosmic energy, which is the entire, currently known universe, to worldly, right? Which is like this speck of dust. So why not? Is my question, right?
Well, why not reach for the stars? Why think small? Think big.
Right. So the tools that you've developed, are they able to, how many people can your current tools impact at one time?
Well, I want to make this clear. When I work with people, I work with them by way of a photograph. Now, what do I mean? People email me their photograph, and I connect to them in the quantum realm. There is no physical connection. It's all informational. So to answer your question, my instrument can easily work with 20, 30, 40 million people a day by way of a photograph. Now you see why I'm thinking big. The scalar energy instrument can send energy by way of a photograph to 20, 30 million people in one day.
Yeah. So what, and I've heard some other stories too, just the eradication of HIV, herpes, other viruses. Let's share a couple of those stories. I think you had a story of how many people that they went through an HIV study in Africa.
Right. Well, let me lay the groundwork. With this instrument, I can control molecular forms, atomic forms. So people will send me photographs, and I can, by way of their photograph, I can identify a virus that they have by way of the quantum field. And again, everything I do is by way of a photograph. So I have been receiving photographs from an HIV/AIDS clinic in Delhi, India. And many of those people are HIV positive. And by working through their photograph, I can detect the HIV virus from their photograph, and I can negate it, break it down, transmute it, call it whatever term you want, upon the photograph. So my work is directly and exclusively to a photograph. Well, lo and behold, these people are going out and getting a test. Some of them are polymerase chain reaction tests. And after I work with these people, they find that they have no HIV. It's been eradicated. It's been fragmented. So you can't explain the apple by the orange, so to speak. And if my scalar energy instrument is working in one paradigm, scalar energy, it's hard to relate that and to substantiate that in the electromagnetic spectrum. But the evidence is becoming overwhelming. If I can break down a virus by way of a photograph, that usually translates into better health for a person in the electromagnetic spectrum. It's a different way of looking at reality.
So but just go back to it was 50 people in the study, right? And how many of the 50 were you able to eradicate the HIV virus in?
So far, everybody that had a test.
Everybody that had a
that's
test.
gone to get a test, all of those tests are negative, HIV negative. So again, let me put this in the context. I live in the United States. So I've never been to India, but people from India send me their photographs. People are HIV positive. And after working with their photographs for a few months, many of those people will subsequently get a test, a polymerase chain reaction test, and those tests come back negative.
I want to go back to kind of the beginning of the conversation where you said everybody can kind of do this, right? Does your tool like train the person to do it? I'm just kind of curious, like, how do you see that, right? And I'll bring it up for this reason. I'm like sitting around, Yogananda, autobiography of a yogi, right? And in one of the scenes, a couple of the scenes, one of his masters in there cures a person by giving them a drop of oil, right? But the drop of oil is more of a prop, right? So I guess the greater question would be, is it your machines or is it you, Tom, who through your machines are curing people, right?
Yeah, I would say it's God's energy. This is what I've discovered about scalar energy. I don't claim any healing ability myself. I believe what I've tapped into, scalar energy, is a divine energy. What some people call consciousness or the gift of the Holy Spirit. I know people who have healing hands, holy hands, if you will.
Right.
That's scalar energy hands. So what I'm working with in and of itself is a healing property. Scalar energy is a healing property. And when I send that scalar energy to a photograph, although it's symbolic, it nonetheless seems to have a healing property.
Right. I mean, look, if it's working, I'm more of the I don't care how it works kind of guy. I mean, if you come up to me and you cure me, like I remember, who was it? It was the Wayne Dyer, talking about crystals, right? And he's like, listen, if I've got hemorrhoids, right, and you tell me that if I sit on this crystal chair over here and it's gonna cure my hemorrhoids, and I go sit on that crystal chair, why wouldn't I? Right. Just like this, if you've got a virus, and let me go back to how much time does somebody need to be in treatment for that cure to occur?
What I've seen, it only takes 1 day, 1 session, 1 treatment of a photograph, because everything in the scalar realm is instantaneous. There is no time lag.
Right.
So all action is instantaneous.
And I know we haven't gotten to this part yet, but I mean, how much would it cost me today if I wanted to sign up and get 1 day of treatment?
Sure. We break this down by 30-day sessions. Our least expensive is $89. It's an ongoing session, and we break it down into 30-day calendar days, if you will.
Right.
And a lot of people opt for that because it's inexpensive. They feel comfortable. It does enhance their spiritual, mental, and physical well-being. I have to, accentuate it. This is also a spiritual and emotional, a mental uplift, if you will. We see great results spiritually and cognitively.
Right. Well, I mean, when you talk about dealing with divine energy, you got it. I mean, innately, right there, it's spiritual, right? Like, I mean, is there something required from? Do you call them patients, clients? What do you call them?
I call them subscribers. Really, and I appreciate that because they're not patients. This is not Western medicine. I've tried so hard to distance myself from Western medicine. Not that I don't believe in Western medicine, but by virtue of the fact I have nothing to do with Western medicine or Newtonian physics.
But it's a whole different paradigm.
Exactly. Right? It's a whole different paradigm. So I don't want to compare myself or latch on to some certain buzzwords where it's confusing.
Right. You also mentioned too the idea of comparing the apples to apples and apples to oranges. If I had to, though, what would the electromagnetic comparison be to be able to weigh this thing out, right? I mean, because look, if I just meet you off the streets, Tom, and I'm not Captain Spiritual, which I already am, right? I'm already a believer. Like, it doesn't take much for me, but like for the non-believer, like how can we compare this? How can we help them to see that what's the benefit in it for them?
Yeah, it's tough. Let me frame it this way. All energy initiates from the stars. It's scalar energy. It's a double helix. Mm-hmm. And then when that energy breaks down or converts into electricity and magnetism, that's an inferior, that's a substandard energy. So if it's like grade A or grade B, what do you want in life? I prefer grade A energy, which is scalar energy, which is the primal energy of the universe, whereas electricity and magnetism is a derivative of scalar energy, and it's inferior. Why work with grade B? Why work with the inferior energy? I don't want to.
I hate grade B. So, man, like, I mean, talk to me a little bit more about the journey, though, into it, right? Like, so you got your parents that are kind of disbelievers, or not necessarily disbelievers, but they're like, there goes Tom, right? With his scalar, turning this into a career. You've got an actual, practice, as it were. You've got an office. You've got, you're running a business, right? Yes. So I got to imagine there's some business loans here or there. There's, some people that you're trying to hire, and, there's some conversations. And what is some of that like? Because I'm curious.
It's the necessary component if you're going to bring this out to the public. I've been at this now for 40 years. I've only had a public website for 10 years. So the previous 30 years, I was a quiet researcher, and I enjoyed that. But there's only so much you can do. So I said to myself, in order for me really to get this out to the general public, I have to demonstrate something that's going to help people. I have to prove it. And that's why I brought the website on. Otherwise, I would continue being a quiet, not unrecognized researcher. Well, to answer your question, after 10 years, it has been quite laborious. A website, hiring people, advertising. Although I enjoy it, nonetheless, a podcast every other day. All of this is an effort, and it's time consuming. And this is what has to be done. And again, I'm one of the few scalar energy researchers out there. So this is quite a novel topic to most people. So again, I'm at the vanguard of this movement with just a few people.
So what's that space look like right now? How many people are invested in this across the world?
I see a growing awareness. To answer your question, it's a growing awareness. Now, how intrinsically involved are people? That's hard to say. But at least I see a growing awareness, and what the next 5 to 10 years should experience should be really hyper growth, or people should at least become aware of this to the point it should be a household word in the next 10 to 20 years. So we still have a lot of growth to go, but the tough part is over. I can see that, we are riding the wave. There is a wave now, finally.
Well, I guess the other question too would be, you brought up Tesla. Who was Marconi? Who's your Marconi?
Yeah, I admire Tesla. I admire all scientists, but nobody can
Yeah.
hold a candle to Tesla. I studied
Well, what I mean by
Tesla.
that, right? So you remember, like Marconi was the guy that took the radio wave patent or the wireless technology
Yes,
patent, basically, and Tesla had already kind of figured it out, right?
right.
There's got to be somebody else out there who's kind of maybe they're not stealing your stuff, but like who would you say your peer is out there? Do you have a peer?
I don't think I have a peer. At least I haven't seen
Mm,
it quite yet.
yeah,
And I don't mean
yeah,
to be condescending, but it's so hard to invent these instruments, control them, and then to be able to administer this energy. I always
right.
give people the analogy. A couple hundred years ago, we knew that there was electricity. We would get a static discharge. But
Hmm.
from a static discharge to controlling and harnessing electricity in a conduit in a home environment, and to be able to
Right.
control it without hurting yourself, that took some doing. So that if you will, that timeline was a rather protracted timeline.
Mm. No, you're right. I liken this type of energy too. Once you kind of tap into this, divine source, right? Very similar to what you say. You can use it improperly, and you can do a lot of damage to yourself. How have you been able to, harness it and focus it for good?
Yeah.
What was that process like for you?
Um, like anything, this is a tool, and a tool can be used for good or evil. And I'll
Mm,
start off by saying that. So, what do I do with these instruments? I have a pro forma. I have a technique, and I never deviate from it. And the
mm,
technique that I've developed is health begetting. It does enhance our health, our quantum health, and that's the key to follow those parameters and stay within those parameters. Um, Tesla sometimes would refer to scalar energies, the ability to illuminate the world. He considered it radiant energy, and he was going to provide free energy for mankind. So his instruments were much stronger than mine. And some people think that the military tried to persuade him to develop this for the sake of weaponry. I don't know how far that went, or if Tesla ever shared any information, but that's the potential here. This energy is so strong, and it's a fundamental, it's a primal force in nature. This could be one heck of a weapon.
right, right. Um, if I think some of the stories or documentaries are to be believed, like as soon as he died, right, like
Yeah,
his hotel room gets raided and all the information is taken out,
right.
right?
The day
And
he died.
I got to imagine too. I'm not the super conspiracy theorist guy, but it was him and who's the other guy? Westinghouse,
Edison.
Edison, right? Like the rivalry that was going on, and big business. If you're
Yes.
giving out free energy to everybody, I mean, whew, what's that going to do to all these other people that are kind of counting on it, right? And this is a monopoly era too, where it's like, right, that was going on.
Yes, yes, and as the story goes, J.P. Morgan was a one-time financier for Tesla, and according to the story, once Morgan understood that Tesla had a free energy device, that ended their relationship. He never got a
Mm.
penny again from Morgan.
Yeah, yeah. What a shame. What a shame. So much to dive down into about him. So, I think some other questions I would have too. A big part of this podcast is really, kind of facing some of what you've had to face yourself already. Is kind of coming out with like some of these non-traditional beliefs and stepping into them, right? You open this up with one of those types of things where like you surround yourself with positive energy and kind of move yourself forward through that, and a lot of good things can happen for you. You did mention your children. How old are your children?
I have two stepkids, 30 and 31.
How do they how are they with this for you?
They're fine. They understand it because they see that I'm grounded. a fairly grounded person. I'm not up in the clouds, and they see
Right.
the merit, and they realize that this is a scientific process. They've seen the laboratory, so this is not, if you will, anything but a scientific approach.
No, I mean, great, and I love that. So, have they at any point like tried to join you with the studies or anything like that?
No, and I'll tell you why. For one glaring reason, and I don't mean to be condescending to anybody. There's no money in this. There is no career.
Wait.
This is not an industry.
A cure for the whole world, and there's no money in it.
No. As of right now, no. I live hand to mouth, frankly. And it's amazing how this is suppressed technology. Let's just cut to it. And if what I'm saying is true and accurate, well, you would think that responsible parties, from the government to academia to corporations to think tanks, would approach me. Not one. No.
Not one. Have you tried to approach any of them?
Yes, and there's no interest. There's no interest. Just to cut to the chase, so many, and I'm not pointing out any specific government, corporation, or individual, but so many people are in lockstep with the status quo.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's the status quo, right? Don't deviate from the norm. That's the kind of the old school tribal, scarcity, getting thrown out of the tribe mindset, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you deviate from the norm.
Yeah.
Do you have like what the typical response? I mean, I gather not interested, but like, what do they say? They just say that can't be real. There's no way. Why would we do that? Like, what is the response?
Most people look at my results. I'm results driven. I believe in performance. And after they look at my results and performance, they usually keep their mouth shut, because they know that there is performance, and they know that this is just not hyperbole. But they don't want to help. In general, people and entities do not want to help me, because it's against the status quo, and this is a threat to the establishment. I can't stress this enough. Scalar energy is going to make obsolete many of the existing monopolies. And what I am doing is such a threat to those who have this monopolistic control over society.
Have you had anybody try to, kind of any suppression, like, just kind of like people trying to steal your equipment or break into labs kind of stuff, right? Like now I'm all in, like, I'm just kind of like, what could be happening? Because like you're saying, like, this is a technology that, it's taking you years to build. I imagine that if somebody breaks in and messes with the instruments, that's going to set you back. Yeah.
But I have to rely upon God's help. And, I can't stress this enough. I'm alone. There is no second scalar energy researcher. There is no research term. You're looking at the research term team. It's me.
So, I mean, God, so how are you going to propagate it, right? How are you going to make sure that it endures?
Yeah. You're right. I'm 61 years old, and I don't have there is no protege. Nobody shows any interest in this. So, the world has to embrace this within the next 20 years, because I don't know if I'll be around much longer. So with that in mind, this is the challenge, and I just take this day by day. It's all in God's hand.
Well, so what if I don't know? What if somebody's listening to this today and they're like, "Hey, I'm totally interested in becoming a protege. I'm totally interested in becoming an understudy." Are you open to stuff like that?
I am, with this caveat. You have to be financially secure. There's no money in this. You have. I'm going to repeat that. There's no money in this.
Right.
Number two, you have to be willing to perform independent study for 10, 20 years before you really understand this. How many people are financially stable or perhaps well-to-do and want to spend the next 20 years laboring with a science that's not recognized, that might not pay any dividend after 20 years of research? Very few people want to make that commitment.
Ah, man. I mean, it's tragic, right? Given what you're saying, and you've proven it can do, that there's nobody else kind of willing to pick up and carry that torch with you, right?
Zero.
Finance it or anything like that. That's I mean, to me that's mind-boggling. Because we go back and you talked about the people getting cured from HIV. There's no news flashes. There's no anything like that. There's nobody publicity. Like have you reached out to newspapers and anything like that? What's happening there? What are the
No, they don't believe it. It goes against their grain, and you have to consider many of these media outlets. They're funded by big pharma. They're funded by big oil. They're in bed with big government. No.
So what keeps you doing it, man?
Well, what do I tell people? Just help get the word out. It's all grassroots. And, we've got some of the greatest technology in the world. It should be headline news. It's not. It won't be. It'll all be grassroots. And that's why I appreciate your platform, Brandon. I appreciate what you're doing. That's what it's going to take, grassroots.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's just a different way of thinking that it's possible, right? And why not? I mean, the real question is, why not?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you've got studies and proofs and theorems, I mean, why not?
Right.
And that's what's killing me. So, man, definitely a lot of fun. I'm sure we could probably go all over the space with it. So one thing I always think about, right, as we're doing these, I almost think about these kind of podcasts as like a speed dating space, right? Like, and that's really what it is, right, Tom? I mean, somebody tunes in, maybe they catch one or two. We're dating somebody, whoever's picking up the podcast, and let's say today they're dating Tom Paladino, right? So if we're in a speed date or something like that, what is, let me find my questions because I've got some, and just top of mind, like, what's religion getting wrong today?
I think the centerpiece of any religious movement should be love. And I'm sure there's problems in the world, but if you keep it positive, you're going to get over many of those problems. Let's face it, most of the problems in the world are man-created. We've created these problems. So I see the problems in the world. What do I try and do? I try and pray every day. I try and pray for world peace. I treat people fairly. And I try always have a productive day as a researcher. I do my part. And I always reach out and I'm working with people, the indigent around the world. I'm providing free sessions because, the people in India that we spoke about, they don't have a dime to their name. So you have to give back to society, and there has to be a new way of living. And money should not be the common denominator. It's a shame that it's the common denominator.
No, I agree. One of the thoughts, and it's interesting, we have interesting conversations here at the house because my wife and I, we have, kind of different upbringing and backgrounds, right? And as I've grown older and older, the more I realize that we shouldn't be working to earn money. Should be working to either kind of, towards a meaning or a purpose or adding value, right? And if I am at a job earning money and it's a job that I don't love, then basically I should be looking at that as a paid internship. What can I learn at that job that I could use later in life, right?
Yeah.
Let's do one or two more questions of just kind of, general stuff. So what I was asking about in terms of, bringing this to the forefront and talking about, sharing this information with your family first, there's got to be some fear in there, right? That you were able to overcome and sharing that with them, right? So how are you able to do that?
Brandon, I have no fear because really I'm fearless. So, I've been around the block so many times. I could care less what people think.
What is everybody else so afraid of then?
Sadly, this is a world that depends on a conventional approach, conformity. And a lot of people don't realize they're conforming to something that's wrong. The paradigm is broke. Look at the world. There's a lot of brokenness. There's a lot of tragedy in the world. Stop doing the wrong things. If it's not working, we need a new approach. If the model's broke, it's broke. Try a new approach. Stop conforming when it's wrong. If it's wrong, stop it.
Tom, if I'm conforming, how do I know what's wrong?
Well, you judge that by the results, obviously. You judge that by the results. You know, I have a very wonderful, charmed life. I have a very productive life. I always look to improve it, but I know that I'm on the right path because it works. I'm not in misery. I'm very happy. If I was miserable, then I would change something for the better.
Right. Yeah. One of the things is not everybody's going to see the video. I'm definitely going to share a video out on certain platforms. But if you're not able to watch the video with Tom and I today, Tom, how old are you again?
I'm 61 years of age.
Man, you guys, I really want to look as good as Tom at 61. I'm just saying, you know, Tom, you got fresh skin. You've got like you're not sagging. You're not falling apart. You look like you're enjoying life. And I could only aim to get to that point.
I'm going to tell you the secret
for you.
I'm going to tell you the secret there. With scalar energy, I can assemble nutrients. So 22 hours a day, I have a process where I can assemble nutrients, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants in my body. It has slowed down my aging process significantly. That's why I look this way at age 61. I don't have sagging skin.
And that goes back to what scalar energy is. It is an instructive energy. Is that correct?
That's right. Correct.
And so just by saying that, when you receive that energy, that is instructive, creative force energy entering your body, saying, we're gonna need like 99 sets of B. We're gonna need X, Y, Z of C, and deliver these to Tom today. Is that a fair way to look at it?
And I'm not suffering from the free radical damage that other people are because I'm under the care of scalar all day long. Nice.
Love it. What is our greatest distraction, Tom?
Well, it's hard. That's a singular approach for everybody. I think with many people, their greatest distraction is they don't concentrate on themselves. If you just concentrate on yourself, well, no, I wouldn't say so. I'm not excluding mankind, but try and do your best, and don't try to extrapolate too much to the world. You can't control the world. Try to make yourself and your family happy. I see the misery around the world. All I can do, Brandon, is pray for that. I take care of my wife. I take care of my the people that I work with through scalar energy. That's my reach. That's all I can do. And that's my focus. Sure, I see the unrest in our country. Okay. I see the fighting. I see the racism. All I can do is pray for that.
You've mentioned pray a few times, Tom. Are you are you a Christian? Are you non-denominational? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, I'm a Christian. And by the way, I believe prayer is the analog to scalar energy. In other words, my instrument is the scientific analog to prayer.
Yeah. Look, it's like you said, though, right? Like, and I don't bring that up to question any type of is this Tom's stuff only works for Christians, right? Because clearly it doesn't. You're directing this at anybody who's open and receptive to it, and I think that it'd be great if there were I guess more Christians like you, Tom, right? More people in the world that
practice what you
their
preach.
Religion. Right. Embrace their religion and appreciate everybody else for who and what they bring to the table as they are. Right. Anything that, so yes, you do a 30-day, but if I went to your website today, could I get a trial of Scalar?
Yes. We offer 15 days of free sessions to everybody. You visit the website, your entire family will be treated for free. No questions asked. We do that because of my humanitarian proclivity. I want to help people. Website is scalarlight.com. Visit. upload your photographs. Remember, we work with you by way of your photograph. All you have to do is email us your photograph.
And this includes pets.
Yes, very good.
Yes. So this includes pets as well. And I think that I think it's remarkable that you're offering it for 15 days. It's kind of what I alluded to earlier in the conversation, is if some of these things can be cured in one time, in one session, sounds like if it's me, I'm on the streets or anywhere I am, and I'm tuned in, worst thing that could happen is that it takes me about 5 minutes to log into the website, enter the information, subject myself to cosmic energy, and potentially be cured of viruses. Is that, is that the worst case scenario here?
That's it. You see how simple this is? It's deceptively simple. It's so simple. People say, nah, it can't be that easy.
Yeah. No. Well, look, so I would have to say then, anybody listening today, that if you don't, at the very least, try this out for yourself today, you're going to be very remiss, right? Because chances are, in the same time today, somebody's going to go, I know I've already bought something off of Amazon today, right? Somebody's going to go check prices somewhere else on something else. You could be cured of whatever ails you. If there's a possibility, then why wouldn't you do it? So, Tom, man, I really enjoyed this conversation. It's really been a pleasure to hop on here and connect with you. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you for the opportunity. I enjoyed myself.